Everyone, it's Heidi from flutterbyheidi.co.uk. I'm Heidi Smith. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator based in the United Kingdom, and today I just thought I'd use up some retiring product and remind you about getting these before they disappear for good. So we've just made a fun little aperture card, as you can see here, using the lovely tailored tag punch, which is going, I have to say, it might be retired. I think it's going to be staying in my stash for a bit because I find it really useful for sentiments, as you can see here. The other thing that's retiring on here is this lovely hand-penned DSP. So this is this beautiful floral one that comes in 12 by 12 sheets that has the images on the front, the floral images, and then some beautiful backgrounds on the back there. This is one of my favourite papers. I think it's a really sketchy, kind of pretty one. And I love the colours in it too, perhaps because I'm a kind of a subtles. I like the subtles quite a lot. But as you can see, there's some super colours. So get it while you can, if you love it. And if you've got some left over, this is a great card to use up some scraps on. So the other project I've used here is carrying over. So this is the Flowers of Friendship stamp set. Lovely floral images that coordinate with the flowers and leaves punch, you can see here, and some great sentiments too that I've just used on the bottom there, and this lovely little sort of strip on here. So let's get creating. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some literally offcuts of card. So I've just got some scraps of basic white left over from projects here. And what I'm going to do is, first of all, choose my paper, and here's a strip I've got. This is about 6 centimetres wide by the 12 inches, and that's going to be ample for what I need to do on this particular project. So I'm going to, because this has got the Highland Heather in it, I'm going to be using my Highland Heather ink pad, and I'm going to use some of the, I was going to use Pale Papaya, but actually I'm not. I'm going to use one of the other colours that is in there, and that's the Daffodil Delight. So I'm going to quickly grab that for the centre of my card as well, which means I need to grab a yellow toned sponge dauber. Okay, so Highland Heather. I'm going to use the Mint Macaron because that's in there as well, as you can see here. And that's going to give my colours. So let's start by doing some leaves. So I'm probably going to need about half a dozen leaves. And it's just a little scrap of paper that I've got. And I'm just going to stamp those in this direction here. As you can see, I'm just coming down to create those leaves. And then to colour them, I'm just taking my sponge dauber and start just literally a couple of times on each one, and what that does is it gives us sort of a subtle colour, and it gives a bit of colour around the outside edge without. So I didn't want anything quite as strong as stamping straight onto the cardstock itself. So that's going to go off to one side. What else am I going to do? I'm going to want to do my flowers, so I'm going to stamp those in Highland Heather. Now with these, space them out a little bit, because when you punch them, we're going to come in from the side here, and you can see that the leaf does kind of cut into where that's going to be. So you just need to leave enough space kind of for a leaf sort of shape here. So I'm hoping that's going to be about right. So I'm going to do 4. I'm going to do an extra one just for good luck. And I'm going to come in and colour those now. So I'm going to come in sponge dauber again and just stamp around the edge of those. This sponge dauber looks like it might be ready to be replaced. So it's look a little bit tired. But again, you can get some depth of colour quite easily here. Do that last one. And then I'll come in with my Daffodil Delight just for the centre. So I'm just going to use the cornerst of edge almost, just to add a little bit of colour to the centres of those. Now my sentiment, I'm going to punch onto a piece of cardstock, and I'm going to actually punch it first. I didn't get a piece out. I don't think I did. Okay, have a scrap that I can see I've used for another project here. I'm just going to punch my tailored tag from that. I'm also going to punch my tailored tag from a piece of cardstock as well, and I'm just going to trim this down. So this piece is about 14.5 at the moment. I'm actually going to trim it down to about 6.2 by sort of 14, and it's kind of just about 14.3, 14.4. I don't want it quite the full length, because otherwise by the time you've scored it, it kind of pokes up over the top, so I just want to keep that almost the full length. That's going to go to one side, which means I can now punch my other layer as well. And next I can start doing some punching, and then we can do our layers. So with the flowers, as I've said, I'm going to sort of come in from the side and just line that up from the underneath and punch those out, and put my flowers off to one side. Possibly come a little bit close to the edge on that one. Here we go. You know, you can see that's one where I've come too close to the edge, so yeah, there we go. So you can see there, it's kind of about, leave a gap of, I don't know, about 3 centimetres between the inner points on those. That'll give you the spacing you need to keep it from doing what I've just done, which is punching into the side of a flower. And then just another one of those just as an extra. Now I'm going to do my leaves, and these little leaves, as I said, if you put them in this direction, you can just simply pop them in and punch those. And I always say, if you have any dexterity issues, then don't do what I'm doing, which is hold it in your hand, but put it on the desk nice and flat. Feed your card in, use the flat of your hand to press down slightly, and just make sure you sort of tip those pieces out whenever possible. What you don't want to do is get lots of debris in there. You can sort of tear that off as you go along. That's, if you like, the really good practice. But as long as you kind of clear the bits out after each punch, you're fine. What you don't want to do is get anything jammed in there. There we go. And then the last one, like so. You can always pop a bit of post-it note on the end. There we go. So there I have some leaves off to the side. Clear the debris down, and we'll create our card base and do some stamping. So for the card base, I've taken a piece of cardstock that's 10.5 by 29 centimetres by 10.5, and I've scored it at 14.5 centimetres. What I'm going to do now is pop that in at 2 centimetres on the right hand side, and from the bottom down I'm going to cut at 2 centimetres, like so. I'm going to flip it, line it up at 2 centimetres again, and then from the top down I'm going to cut. Just pick that up, and as soon as it's pretty much at the top, you're fine. Take your snips and just make sure you're cutting to the outer edge. So you want to come on sort of on the score line, but just to the solid side of it. And there's our card front. Now we want to cut our DSP. So if you remember, we cut this piece here, so it's just given a very narrow little border on the sides there. So now I want a piece of DSP that's going to do the same. So if I cut this DSP again down to about 14.3, and I'm just going to trim that without just managed to get a stray. Just going to pop that in there, a stray diamante. And I'm going to kind of take it down to about 5.9, just to give a slightly narrower border. Okay, so that's our piece for the centre. And then the piece for the sides, again, about 14.3. And if you remember, this was 6 centimetres wide, so I'm just going to cut that in half at 3 centimetres. Now, you might find that you've got a piece that's 5 centimetres wide. As long as it's wider than 2 centimetres, it will work fine to add that to the centre of the sides of your card. So I'm going to add my panel. I've added glue to the wrong side of that, so I'm going to need to cut some more. I'm nearly doing the same. In fact, actually, well, happy accident. Let's add that as it is. Having done that, rather than having a glue bit of DSP, here we go. So not quite what I was planning, but you know what? I'm sure we'll make it work. Add that to the other side as well. So we've got our floral panel. Now, the next bit I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tailored tag punch, and on this front section, I'm just eyeballing that, and lining up the edge of the card with those points, and cutting an aperture. Next, I'm going to add my layer of card, and I'm doing it this way because what I don't want to do, I'm just kind of giving myself a bit of an area where I don't want too much glue. I'm going to pop that onto the front of my card. And then I'm going to come in again with my punch and just line that up. You'll just see where the edge of your white card is. And then you're going to punch, because you will struggle to punch through 2 layers of cardstock. I have done it in the past. You can always nibble a little bit or trim it with your scissors. But there's your next layer. Then we're going to do the same again with our front layer. But because I messed up, I'm actually going to have my my reverse paper, edge of the paper here, and because the way I cut it, I've got a slightly raised edge on those where my cutting blade has gone down. So I'm just flattening those with my bone folder. And again, adding that layer to the front there, just opening that out. And again, you can come in either with your snips, or what's easier is with the punch, because it's difficult to get your snips into that sharp corner at the end. So again, just punch our layer. So as you can see, we've now got our card coming together. And if you remember, we punched out this shape here, which we're going to pop into that aperture there. It overhangs slightly, so you're not going to want to glue right to the edge, but I am gluing it flat, just in there. Flip your card over and trim. And then this obviously is going to be the same size. So what I'm going to do now is, using my snips, I'm just going to come and snip a sort of millimetre off the edge of all of the sides there, just to give a tiny little border. Lift that up and just make sure that that is going to give you a border, whether you need to trim any more. And mine seems fine there. It's small, but I don't want it much bigger than that, because my sentiment only just fits. So grab your sentiment, mine is from the Flowers of Friendship, and just make sure you're popping that over to the left edge slightly. could have probably done that a little bit higher up, but you know what, it'll work. Again, just keep the glue to the left hand side of that, because you're going to just pop that in there as well. And then while that is drying, I'm going to just grab a piece of foam to help shape my flowers. So what I want to do now is use a bone folder, and there are lots of ways that I shape the flowers, but all I'm doing here is I'm just pulling that card over the flower and then pressing down in the centre to get a bit of shaping. I just find that just makes them just look that little bit more realistic, you know, just adds a certain touch. And the gems I've used here actually are the Eden's Garden ones. Now I can't remember at the moment whether they're still available in clearance or not. They just happen to be the ones, but our lovely rhinestone basics would be perfect for this as well. I just happen to have, they were the first ones that came to hand. So that should be dry. We can come in and again trim. Then all that's left is to add our flowers to the top there. So I'm just going to turn those over and add some tombow to the back point of each of those and pop those in our top corner. Actually, that happy accident with those with my DSP I think actually works better because it's not quite so busy. These flowers aren't competing with the flowers in the background. So those are drying. Just adding a little, I'm not shaping these leaves, I'm just adding them in flat. Add a little tombow to the end of each of these and pop them in. And just use my take your pick tool just to push those down, make sure they're well stuck. And you'll see that by adding the rhinestone just to the centre there, it just brings these flowers to life a little. It doesn't take much, just add a little bit of something to them. So all that remains for me to do is to grab another couple of those and push those down. And there we have a pair of pretty thank you cards ready for you to gift. And yeah, if you want to purchase any of the products you've seen today, pop along to my blog at flutterbyheidi.co.uk or follow the links in the description bar below this video. And I'd really be delighted if you chose this as your demo. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.